in this podcast, we will go from anything from using iced water on your face, literally to the meaning of life. So that is what Own Your Health is indeed all about. Regular intentional cracking can lead to issues with the tendons. I just wanted to ask your views on cold swimming, ice baths, cold showers, and keeping cold as Wim Hof advocates. So, now this is a very ancient form. Now, the other thing to say about this, though, before we get too carried away, is that yes, it is an ancient form of self-healing, but in the olden days, most people had cold water anyway. Okay, only rich people had means to getting hot water. Hello and welcome to Own Your Health with me, Katie Brindle. Please do rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts or follow on Spotify and tell your friends and family all about us so we can help more people. And also, if you're on TikTok, Instagram or YouTube, you can leave your comments and questions below. So welcome to today's episode, which is going to be a wonderful Q&A answering many of the questions which have come in over the past week. But before we start, Vix, who's one of the amazing team here, who's behind the camera, literally in this instance, after the embarrassment when we had Kimberly Gallagher on, who basically said that you can't have fake plants, it's an absolute feng shui no-no. Vix, what have we got?
We actually have this.
Yay! Look, we've got a real live orchid. I think what we need now is a vase. But we've got a real live orchid, so I'm going to have that in camera shot. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And looks like Vix has been doing some actual gardening. This looks like something that you've planted out from home.
Yeah, it's a little Chinese money plant.
He might need a bit of water.
He does need a bit. He actually needs repotting.
Right.
But
yes, we've got. Right, we're going to get there. So this is a money plant. Well, this is great. Look, can we give him a bit of water? Bless his little heart. Honestly, he's looking a little bit like he needs a bit of TLC. Right, Vix is just coming. Right, Gardener Vix now.
It's going to pour everywhere, isn't it?
Have we got a we need a little something. Right, we're dealing with the money plant. We've got an orchid and a money plant. Now, the reason we've got money plants is obviously they're very good for business success, obviously. But also they have, and NASA did a really interesting study on the best possible plants for producing the highest possible air for humans. Now, I went into all of this in my book, which is Yang Sheng, which is up there, which is actually off camera. But anyway, but the money plant is actually one of the best ones. So if you want more information about plants and air, there we go. That's better. Bless his little heart. Oh, he's lovely. Right, well, we can keep a little, sorry, I'm getting caught up with the camera now. We can keep a little view on him because Vix, this is going to be your pet project because she's here every day. So we could look, he's better already. So I'm now talking to the plant. Hello, Mr. Money Plant. He's thriving off my breath. So basically, money plants are really good, not only for attracting wealth and fortune into your family, but also giving you really, really good breath and air quality around you. So this is a really good one. So we'll track him. So let's just pop him. In fact, he's going to take over from the orchid because actually he's enjoying what's going on here, so you can sit there. Right, so Kimberly should be very happy now that we are now planted up in the studio. I've got plants galore, and I have to say the energy is absolutely lovely as a result. In the meantime, what have we got going on today? Whack the Good says, great advice. I live in France, where all the staff have a full hour for lunch, and funnily enough, we always play Rummy Cub after lunch every day. Maggie Lauder says, yes, I love your podcast. Just the right length to listen to and make simple to understand it. Thank you for the great tips. Thank you, Maggie. That's so kind. And Shihan Eileen says that that is the best explanation of life's meaning, Katie, I've ever heard. I really appreciate it. Well, that's always good to know. And the thing is, guys, in this podcast, we will go from anything from using iced water on your face, literally to the meaning of life. So that is what Own Your Health is indeed all about. Because if you want to be healthy, we need to make sure that we are focusing on all of the different layers of your health, which is your physical health, your emotional health and your spiritual health. Now, I go into that in one of the earlier episodes, so do please cross-reference back to some of the very, very early ones. If you're new to the podcast, do please look at those very first episodes where I kind of lay it all out. And obviously, I'll keep layering it all out as we go along. But nonetheless, what we're doing today is these are the Q&As. So this is when I say to you, leave your comments and questions on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube. That is precisely what we're asking you to do. And I will indeed answer as many of the questions as I can. So the first question comes from Angela Fretton, who says, is myelin sheath the same as fascia? So it's not. No, myelin is a fatty substance and a protein, and it's like a protective insulating layer which forms itself around the nerves, which allows the electrical impulses to travel along the nerve cells. Now, what then happens is if that gets damaged, that will then start to slow down the nerve impulses. Now, fascia, on the contrary, is made of collagen. Okay, primarily. There's a tiny aspects, but it's basically collagen. And what fascia does is it supports and it stabilizes and it separates muscles and bones and organs and nerves and blood vessels. So it's like a web-like network of connective tissue. So it's not quite the same thing, but the nervous system very much flows through the fascia, just like the lymphatic system does and just like the energy system does. So they're very, very connected. And the thing about fascia, because I love talking about fascia, is it's also called connective tissue. And that is what makes it so important for us to understand, because that's the magical moment. Magic moments. Because that's where energy becomes matter in the body, because the energy's flowing through it. And the fascia is a bit like coral reef. That's a Katie explanation. There's no explanation of fascia being coral reefs in any of the Chinese texts or anything Western I've read, okay? But this is Katie explanation. Imagine sort of coral reefs, for those listening, I'm just sort of flicking my fingers very, very gently in a sort of cooey kind of like symbol. And the thing is, what happens is it's just gently vibrating like this, and then all of these other kind of more physical things are kind of flowing through it. They're slightly stronger and denser. Now, if the fascia get damaged, and they do, it's like the coral reef started to show global warming kind of before everything else. We're sort of looking at them and going, what's happening? Because they're really delicate. Okay, that's why coral reefs are so important for us to understand. They're so delicate. So is the fascia. So the thing about fascia is if it gets damaged by stress or being over sedentary or excessive exercise or the wrong kind of exercise or repetition of movements like RSI, that kind of thing, the tiny waves or entry and exit points through the fascia of all these other little vessels to go through can easily get blocked. And that's the problem. And if they get blocked, the fascia either becomes dry, and then it sounds like dry spaghetti when you hear it going when it's tense. Okay, it becomes like that, or waterlogged. And that's when you get sort of excess water in the body and you think, well, I'm careful what I eat and I go to the gym and nothing's shifting this weight, blah, blah, blah. That's what's going on. Okay, so it's an understandable question and a very good question. So hopefully that answers it. Before we go into the nuts and bolts of today's episode, I want to talk to you about a really important subject, which actually Victoria Woodall and I were talking about in the podcast recently, which is hair saving. Thin hair. Thin hair is the bane of my life. I inherited it from my mother, who inherited it from her father. And it's not just me, because this podcast isn't really about me, it's about you. But hair thinning and hair loss and hair lackluster and basically hair issues is a huge problem in the 21st century. And we really do need all the help we can get. So Dr. Vegan have got a really lovely hair supplement. And believe me, I've tried them all. So I really, really have. And rather than you having to spend 6 to 8 weeks testing a whole load of different ones, just trust me on this one and try this one first, because it really works. So they have got loads of evidence to show that 6 to 8 weeks of taking this hair supplement product that they sell has got really visible results on your hair, and it is the hair supplement that I like to take myself. Now, what are the magic ingredients in this supplement? Well, biotin, which is a very well-known hair supplement, but they've mixed it with other vegan ingredients as well. So it's not just pure biotin. It's a high-quality biotin mixed with SMN and AnaGain. Those are the key ingredients in this, but they've also got 14 ingredients in total in this hair supplement, and it's just fantastic. And the great thing is that within about 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to start to notice the difference. The other thing that I really love about these products is it's not just the quality of the ingredients and the fact that it's beating the ethical drum because it's vegan. They've also got fantastic quality of capsules, and the way that they bring the capsules to you is in planet-friendly packaging. And that's a really important thing, because a lot of the supplement market is not. And then the last but by no means least, aside from all the ethics that come with this brand and the high quality ingredients, it's the price point. They're offering you 25% off if you use Brindle25 at checkout. So those are some wonderful reasons as to why those hair supplements would be the ones that I would recommend that you try. So do let me know in the comments if you've tried them or if you're going to try them or how you get on, because we'd love to hear your feedback. And now we'll go to the rest of the episode. Alexander Hughes. Katie, end the debate. Does cracking your bones cause arthritis? Now, oh my gosh, this is also a hot debate in my family because my son, who's a twin, endlessly cracks his knuckles, and my daughter, his twin, goes absolutely bonkers, and then he does it all the time to wind her up, and it's an endless family debate. So the general consensus is no, okay? It doesn't. But, she says, sitting on the fence, it's not a good idea to do it anyway. Cracking is movement of ligaments, tendons, and it's the release of bubbles of synovial fluid, which lubricates the joints. So regular intentional cracking can lead to issues with the tendons. It can lead to swelling of joints, and it can lead to repetitive strain injury and ligament injuries. And remember, I've just talked about RSI and fascia. So fascia doesn't like it either. Now, there's a really interesting experiment here. So a doctor called Dr. Donald Unger, he did this experiment over 50 years, and he cracked on one hand only. Thank you, Dr. Unger, okay? And he never developed arthritis in the other hand. Now, that's not a full-on scientific blind study, but given that Dr. Unger spent 50 years of his life doing that, that is like some of the Taoist masters who spent their entire life ingesting every single Chinese herb you could possibly ingest to establish the difference and to create tomes of information off the back of it. That is a dedication to everyone else. So I think we should listen to what he's done. So it's not a good idea. Okay, now the other thing that I like to say, which makes my children laugh and normally ends the debate in humour, which is normally my way of dealing with it because nothing else seems to work, is we say in Chinese medicine, joints cracking, yin lacking. And my children start laughing, and that's the end of it. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if the joints are cracking in the first place, it's because there's a lack of yin flowing through the joints. Now, we in Qigong, we do joint circling every day. And if you come to my Qigong classes, we do that every single time. We circle and strengthen every single one of the joints, okay? And when we do wrist circling, oh, see, did you hear that? They just went like that because I haven't done it today. But when I do the wrists, I do my fingers at the same time. And it's really important to do a full-on circuit of the joints every single day to ensure that all the synovial fluid is flowing. And if it's flowing, the yin is abundant and they wouldn't crack in the first place. So there we go. So hopefully, Alexander, that has now ended the debate once and for all. So what you need to do is click on the link underneath where I will show you a demo, and a team here, I think I probably need to film a specific demo for you of me showing you how to do the circles, and do that for your joints every day. The other interesting thing to say on that subject is that joints are often relating to organs in Chinese medicine. Okay, so for example, the elbows relate to the hearts and the lungs, and the shoulders relate to the liver, and the hips relate to the spleen, and the knees relate to the kidneys. Right. So, first of all, joint health relates to organ health, and anyone that's listened to my podcast, and if you haven't, I'm about to tell you, these 5 key organs control everything. Everything comes under the auspices of these 5 viscera, okay? Everything else is secondary to those 5 viscera being healthy. It's a bit like a chessboard, okay? Those are the power pieces, all right? Everything else matters, but those are your power pieces, with the heart being the king on the chessboard, okay? Everything is there to protect the heart. And I would hypothesize that chess actually came as a game about the body, because I can draw a load of parallels, and that might be an interesting podcast. Okay, we should get a chess expert on to explain and discuss. Probably some Russian chess expert would be really interesting. So in the meantime, also what happens is there are energy centers in the joints. And if your body is becoming depleted from energy, the body will often draw the energy out of the joints as an easy way to suck the energy back into the organs when they're suffering, okay? And that's why you would end up with cracking joints, because you're probably overdoing it. Probably your energy bank account is being depleted and you're overspending, and you're not doing enough to balance the energy back. The other thing, quick win, I would recommend for joint health, aside from the free one, which is just doing joint exercises every day, which I can teach you, is castor oil compressing. Miniature castor oil compresses, which we sell on the Hair Saviour method, are really, really good for taking the heat out of the joints, replenishing the energy, and getting the yin moving back, because castor oil is really yin in nature. And finally, last but by no means least, gua sha with the body restorer, again, which I can show you on a different feed. Okay, so that is it for me ending the debate on joint cracking. So basically, no, don't do it. Right, And last but by no means least, Julie, Silver Food Fairy, says, thank you for a wonderful and enlightening podcast, Katie and the team. I totally agree and understand about keeping warm for kidney energy. I just wanted to ask your views on cold swimming, ice baths, cold showers, and keeping cold as Wim Hof advocates. So, now this is a really good question. Now, I have done a similar question actually in a previous Q&A, but cold water therapy is so important and so fashionable that I thought it was good to actually come at this question from another angle as well. So the thing about cold water therapy is this is basically where the body is exposed to fluctuating water temperature. Okay, now what that does is that will trigger natural self-healing. Okay, now this is a very ancient form. Now, the other thing to say about this, though, before we get too carried away, is that yes, it is an ancient form of self-healing, but in the olden days, most people had cold water anyway. Okay, only rich people had means to getting hot water. Most people didn't use any water at all. And if they were getting clean, they were going out into outside water supplies because people didn't have running water. And that was likely to be cold unless you lived in a hot country. Okay, so you're in the Mediterranean or something. If you lived back in Blighty, your water would have been cold anyway. Okay, so that's the first thing to say. So it's a relatively new thing. It's only been really in the last 100 years that we've got, the majority of people have piped hot water into their bathrooms and just naturally take warm showers. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. So the second thing is that the key to this is fluctuation. The other key to this is understanding your own health in the first place. If you're weak and you're not feeling well, it's not a good idea to just suddenly start plunging yourself into ice cold water. Now, I've been doing cold water therapy for years, and I got ill earlier this year. I got long COVID, and I didn't go. I've got a little sauna water station sort of outside. It was my 50th birthday present. I love it. Tiny little sauna, which was supposed to be for me, and now we all pile in, so it's like rammed, and a little ice tub outside with a little ice machine, which I use a lot. Okay, pre-getting sick, I was in that probably 3 or 4 times a week. Okay, when I got long COVID, I didn't go in it for 3 months. I couldn't face it because I was listening to my body, and there was no in a million years I was going to do that. Now I'm starting to recover. I'm back in it a lot. So there is a tipping point, and if you're not sure, you need to speak to your GP or speak to a consultant or an expert. It's not a good idea to start exposing yourself to extremes of anything. And when we do safe yang sheng, which is self-care in Chinese medicine, these yang sheng techniques, we always say grain of sand therapy first. Start with what I call the pleasure zone. It should always feel nice. Start with your shower. I always say, do the hokey cokey in the shower. Get your leg in. Fluctuate it a little bit. Okay, just a gentle shift, and start building up slowly but surely. No one's taking your shower away. Okay, don't start spending loads of money on buying some ice tub outside your house. Okay, the next thing that I did once I got used to doing it in the shower was I then started to just get, I went to Lakeland Plastics, and I bought like reusable bags of ice. Okay, and so I'm lucky my bath is separate to my shower in my bathroom. So what I would do was have a warm shower, and I'd just take this I take a bucket of these bags of ice and chuck it in a cold water, let that ice melt, and then I'd just, the plastic bags would just naturally come off, and then I'd refill them, okay? And then I'd go and have a warm shower and go in the cooler water and then back again. And I did that for quite a long time until finally I invested in an ice machine. Okay, and then finally the whole thing went outside. But that was a sort of 3-year process. I didn't just suddenly sort of get a sauna and an ice bath and start jumping around. The other thing to say is that it is an extremely it's a very, very good health practice. It creates extreme vasodilation. So it's really good at moving the circulatory system and the lymphatic system. It's good for alleviating inflammation. It basically allows the body to kind of hypermobilize stuck energy flow and congested blood vessels and congested joints, and it's all the sort of the crud of the riverbed of your circulatory systems in the body, and it just really releases it in and out of the circulatory systems. I would say that the best place to start, if you're not sure, is have a look at the Russian bathhouses. Okay, Russian banyas, BAGNA, has been a really thorough way of working with hot cold water therapy, which is very, very much entrenched in Russian history, and it goes all the way across Eastern Europe as well. They have got some superb bathhouses, and there are Russian bathhouses in London. I go to one a lot. It's called the Bathhouse of Belgravia, so we could put a little link there. They are absolute experts. They know what they're talking about. It is really interesting to go there and to try it out with experts, and they do these amazing things called perennias, where they put you into this hot sauna, and they have these experts, and they literally sort of they gently beat the body with these beautiful birch leaf branches in very, very hot, and then you're going into the plunge. And I try and do that as part of my self-care practice whenever I can. It's what I actually do when I meet friends in London, as opposed to going out for food and drink. So, you know, in the old days, you go out and have a bottle of wine and have a meal. We don't do that now. Now we go there and we just sit there and sit in the sauna and go and have the ice plunges, and we love it. So it's always really important to inform yourself. So hopefully that answers your questions. And thank you so much for listening and watching today's Q&A. If you have any questions and you're on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, then do please put them in the comments below. And in the meantime, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and do tell your friends and family all about it so that we can help more people. Thank you for watching and listening.